Now, Crimea has a complicated history with a majority Russian population and a strategic location on the Black Sea. But here's the thing. It was internationally recognized as part of Ukraine. Russia's justification for the annexation was that they were protecting the Russian-speaking population from the fascist government in Kyiv, the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Now, these two countries go way back. Like, back. We're talking centuries of shared history, intertwined cultures, and enough baggage to fill a Boeing Dreamliner. Both nations trace their roots back to the medieval East Slavic civilization known as Kievan Ruses. Imagine a time of Vikings, trade routes, and beards so magnificent they'd make a hipster weep. Fast forward through centuries of shifting borders, invasions, and power struggles, and we arrive at the formation of the Soviet Union. Ukraine, with its fertile lands and industrial potential, became a crucial part of this communist behemoth. But hey, forced assimilation and that whole Holodomor thing, a man-made famine engineered by Stalin in the 1930s that killed millions of Ukrainians, yeah, not exactly the best foundation for a healthy relationship, am I right? Fast forward again to the late 20th century. The Soviet Union, that big, creaky communist machine, started to sputter and stall. Guess who saw an opportunity to break free from their overbearing neighbor? You got it, Ukraine. In 1991, Ukrainians voted overwhelmingly for independence. This was a huge deal. It was like their awkward family Thanksgiving finally came to an end, except with fewer mashed potatoes and more geopolitical ramifications. This newfound independence, however, came with a catch. Ukraine inherited a whole bunch of Soviet-era nuclear weapons. Talk about a parting gift. Under pressure from the international community, Ukraine agreed to give up its nukes in exchange for security guarantees from Russia, the United States, and the United Kingdom. This agreement, known as the Budapest Memorandum, would become a major point of contention down the road. Remember that when we get to 2014, spoiler alert, promises were made, promises were broken. So, Ukraine's independent, right? They've got their own flag, their own anthem, the whole shebang. You'd think things would be smooth sailing from here on out, right? Wrong! In 2004, Ukraine held a presidential election that was about as fair and free as a game of Monopoly with my nephew rigged from the get-go. The pro-Russian candidate, Viktor Yanukovych, was declared the winner amidst accusations of widespread voter fraud. The Ukrainian people, however, weren't having it. They took to the streets in what became known as the Orange Revolution, demanding a revote and a shot at genuine democracy. And guess what? It worked. The protests forced a rerun of the election, which was won by the pro-Western Viktor Yushchenko. This was a major setback for Russia's influence in Ukraine and a sign of things to come. Remember that whole security guarantees thing from the Budapest Memorandum? Yeah, about that. In 2014, Russia decided to take a page out of the How to Violate International Law playbook and invaded and annexed the Crimean Peninsula. Now, Crimea has a complicated history with a majority Russian population and a strategic location on the Black Sea. But here's the thing. It was internationally recognized as part of Ukraine. Russia's justification for the annexation was that they were protecting the Russian-speaking population from the fascist government in Kyiv. This, of course, was a load of borscht. The annexation was widely condemned by the international community as a violation of Ukraine's sovereignty and a dangerous precedent for future conflicts. Section 5. The Donbas War, a proxy conflict. As if annexing Crimea wasn't enough, Russia decided to stir the pot even further in eastern Ukraine, specifically in the Donbas region. This area, home to a significant Russian-speaking population, became the epicenter of a separatist movement fueled by, you guessed it, Russia. Armed groups, backed by Russian troops and weapons, launched an insurgency against the Ukrainian government. The conflict quickly escalated into a full-blown war, with both sides accusing the other of committing atrocities. The Donbas War became a bloody stalemate, claiming the lives of thousands of civilians and displacing millions more. It also exposed the limitations of the international community in responding to Russian aggression. Section 6. NATO expansion, a threat or a red herring. Now let's talk about NATO. The North Atlantic Treaty Organization, formed in 1949 as a counterbalance to the Soviet Union, has been a major sticking point in Russia's relationship with the West. After the collapse of the Soviet Union, several former Soviet republics, including Poland, Hungary, and the Baltic states, joined NATO. Russia saw this expansion as a direct threat to its security, accusing the West of encroaching on its sphere of influence. The West, however, argued that NATO is a defensive alliance and that its expansion was a response to Russia's increasingly aggressive behavior. The debate over NATO expansion became a key element in the lead-up to the 2022 invasion of Ukraine. Section 7. The 2022 invasion, a turning point in history. Which brings us to the main event. Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February 2022. After months of military buildup and diplomatic posturing, Russian troops launched a multi-pronged attack on Ukraine, targeting major cities, including Kyiv, Kharkiv, and Odessa. Putin's stated goals for the invasion were to demilitarize and denazify Ukraine, prevent its NATO membership, and protect the people of Donbas from genocide. These claims, of course, were about as believable as a flat earther's PowerPoint presentation. The invasion was widely condemned as a blatant violation of international law and an act of unprovoked aggression. Section 8. International response and implications. The international community responded to the invasion with a swift and unprecedented wave of sanctions against Russia. The United States, the European Union, and their allies imposed crippling economic penalties, targeting Russian banks, oligarchs, and key industries. Western countries also provided Ukraine with billions of dollars worth of military aid, including weapons, ammunition, and intelligence support. The invasion had far-reaching implications for the global order, shaking the foundations of international security and sending shockwaves through the global economy. Section 9. The uncertain future of Ukraine. So where do we go from here? The future of Ukraine remains uncertain. The conflict has already claimed the lives of tens of thousands of people and displaced millions more. The war has also had a devastating impact on Ukraine's economy and infrastructure. The outcome of the conflict will have profound consequences not only for Ukraine and Russia, but also for the broader international system. One thing is clear. The world will never be the same. And that's the Russia-Ukraine conflict, a story of shared history, broken promises, and a whole lot of geopolitical maneuvering. We'll be right back.